Welcome to Elevated and Melanated, where critical thinkers can come and discuss inconvenient truths and uncomfortable knowledge. I am your host, KT the Intellect.
It's the man, DJ the Finesse Kid.
Yes, sir. We want to thank you once again for coming to join us here at Elevated and Melanated for another podcast episode. Got some very important and very interesting and maybe even revealing information to deal with today. DJ, how you feeling about today's information we're about to go over?
Very eye-opening, per usual. I mean, all the topics that we do, dropping gems, opening eyes, as I see. And man, there's a lot of tell-alls in this. I feel like, and kind of plain sight, to be honest. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, every major publication in the last few weeks, or last week, I should say, has been covering it. Has a lot of implications for what life may mean or what human life has going on in the future. But let's just dive right into it, right? So we're on an article on CNN, and the headline is, "World's first living robots can now reproduce, scientists say." You know what I'm saying? So just off that headline, how you feeling, DJ? What you thinking?
To me, it's just crazy how far from, nature, far from God that we've come. And, I'm not no saint, but I do understand their mission and what they're trying to do. And I say there, I mean, obviously the elites that we talk about.
Yes, sir.
And, it's just interesting how they just kind of planted a seed and continue to let us push forward into something that we don't even have no business doing. So that's based off that,
Yes, sir. And I have to wholeheartedly agree. As we move more into this artificial system, as we try to make nature obsolete, we're going to run into things that may not only be obsolete. I mean, may not only be artificial, but may be there to replace us. You know what I'm saying? So, and also too, the first thing I'm thinking when I read this, that the word robot, that doesn't have to mean machine or made with metal. You know what I'm saying? The word robot simply means slave. So you could have an organic robot. You know what I'm saying? So if you ever had a job where you didn't like, and you thought you were like, oh, I feel like I'm a robot here. That's because you feel like you're a slave. That's literally the definition of robot.
Wow, that is crazy. I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's really eye-opening in itself, dude. I mean, it makes sense because a lot of the words today, like we've talked about, behind closed doors, how words get there, where they derive from, and what they actually mean, and how throughout time they've kind of, made us not use the right language or understand it correctly. And like you said, working that 9-to-5 life, we know all about that, man.
Exactly.
So and you definitely can feel it and see it.
Exactly. So we had new robots to replace the human robots. Maybe that's why they someone's dedication is being, or someone's funding and resources being dumped into this subject, right? So this is written by Katie Hunt of CNN. So it says, the U.S. scientists who created the first living robots say the life forms known as xenobots can now reproduce and in a way not seen in plants and animals. So right there, I want to say this too. So they invented these robots in January 2020, I believe. So these robots were invented by their scientists in January 2020, and by November 2021, they figured out a way to reproduce. That's an extremely fast evolution, or you know what I'm saying, or what's the word? Level up, or just extremely fast progression. You know what I'm saying? Progression into how something functions for it to be learn how to produce within a year and a half. You know that's very interesting. So it says, formed from the stem cells of the African clawed frog, from which it takes its name, xenobots are less than a millimeter wide. The tiny bots were first unveiled in 2020 after experiments showed that they could move, work together in groups, and self-heal.
Dude, it's like a real-life Terminator Judgment Day, man.
Exactly, and it may be a little bit different because Terminator Judgment Day, it was metal robots, right? They said this is from stem cells of a frog, so this is an organic robot. You know what I'm saying? This is not a android, not a cyborg. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's more like the one with Christian Bale.
Which one was that one? Refresh my memory.
Christian Bale and
not Equilibrium.
No, I'm talking about the Judgment Day, the Terminator with Christian Bale.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. He was yeah, okay. It's very much
One
like that.
one of them was like a cybernetic,
Yeah, he was like an organism that was
organism.
created.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So yeah, so that's what this is. It's a created organism.
yeah,
It's not a machine, right? So and it's like I said, take it from stem cells, and they be doing crazy thing with them stem cells. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
And
all over
inject
the
them into
world.
folks.
And this is from a frog, so this is all very interesting. So they go
Yeah.
on. It says now the scientists have developed them at the University of Vermont, Tufts University, and Harvard University's Weiss Institute for Biologically Inspired Engineering. Said they have discovered an entirely new form of biological reproduction, different from any animal or any plant known to science. Oh man, that sounds like you're playing God right there. You know what I'm saying? Very interesting. Playing with life and death, playing with the meaning of life. You know what I'm saying? I think, I wonder sometimes if these scientists ever ask themselves, just because we can do this, should we do this? You know, because if you listen to any of them or certain ones like Elon Musk or different people who are on the cutting edge of AI, let's say AI is not something to be taken lightly. It's something that can be at the end of the human race as we know it, you know? So it's just very interesting as they push forward into these new scientific,
Trying to one up.
they're trying to one up themselves in these new scientific endeavors. How far are we going to push the envelope before we start to think about why we're doing something that's more important than what we're doing? Because what is the purpose of this? Is this to simply just get rid of autonomous or monotonous work so that the people of the earth can live a much more fulfilled existence, or is this to replace certain people of the world so a small group of people can have a more, you know what I'm saying, fulfilled existence, right? Without the fear of those
Uproar.
yeah, the uproar of so many poor masses that are, you know, always at their necks. You know what I'm saying? Can at any time right against them. Very interesting. So I was astounded by it, said Michael Levin, a professor of biology and director of the Allen Discovery Center at Tufts University, who was co-lead author of the new research. Frogs have a way of reproducing that they normally use, but when you use it, liberate the cells from the rest of the embryo, and you give them a chance to figure out how to be in a new environment. Not only do they figure out a new way to move, but they also figure out apparently a new way to produce.
Wow. Reproduce. Wow.
I know, right? It has a little video here, you know what I'm saying, of what these new robots look like close up, and they kind of look. And you had a very interesting observation. You said it looked like what earlier? These robots?
Like the Matrix scene when the Neo's waking up.
Yeah, he's coming
how
out that pod.
coming out the pod, and he sees everybody still asleep in the hole. But initially he's in there before the things start popping on his spine and stuff. So
Yeah, exactly.
that picture looks exactly like just obviously
The picture on this article.
Yep.
Yeah, man. It was funny you said that. Like, I was thinking about it, I was like, yo, because like this could be, you know what I'm saying, how people enter the matrix, because if they can create robotic organic cells, let's say they were to put a few of these cells in your body, if they can program these cells to go to certain places in your body, who's to say they can't control your brain? You know, who's to say this they can't do physical mind control from having, you know, cells that are their robots or are their slaves that are doing their bidding, that are doing whatever you program them to do. And right now it may not be at a super advanced state. They're just still playing with these things, but who knows where this can go in 10 years, and who knows what they really have, because this is what they're telling us. You know, they already did something crazy.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like all the videos that we've seen from like previous conventions where they create what are those called, when like the St. Louis Fair,
World fairs.
yeah, world fairs, but they used to also have like the invention, like similar to Iron movie,
Not
Iron
science fairs.
Man, like the movie Iron Man, where they would show how people
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
those conventions when they would have those
Expos and stuff.
Expos, yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, we've seen some crazy pictures of the past where they have they've already had certain technologies.
Oh, that we think are more modern.
If we're 100 years later, who's to say what they have behind closed doors already and what they haven't, taken away from the public? Because they've burned there's been so many books that have been burned, and so many books that have been put underground, and who has access to those books, right? And the people with money, or the people that they just like to read books and hog them for themselves. I think it's going to be the former, you know. And so when it comes to that, I think there's possibly a way. I mean, obviously, I'm thinking, you know, I'm just kind of going off hunches, but it's just interesting how, you know, they could really have these answers to all that. So.
Exactly, and I'm not sure if this article goes into this because I read several articles about this, but this was funded in part by DARPA, you know, and we all remember DARPA, your friendly black site or
Shield.
black budget Pentagon wing, you know what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
and if I remember correctly, our very first podcast was talking about. You know, they're putting the things in people's bodies to control them,
Yep.
things of that nature, and they got taken down within 30 minutes.
Yeah, literally.
And those same things that we're talking about, those medical interventions, you know what I mean, or those organic passports, they were also being funded by DARPA. So
Yeah.
DARPA got its hands in a lot of things. It looks like a lot of on the cutting edge.
Shield got his hands in a lot of things.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? DARPA is just the evil. DARPA may be more Hydra than Shield, but
Hey, Elijah.
DARPA may be more Hydra than Shield,
Yeah.
but I digress, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting watching these things float around. It looked like almost like Pac-Man from this angle as they float around, just collecting these little nutrients, these little particles, whatever, and clumping them together to make basically clones of themselves as they reproduce. And I wonder if, because cloning and reproducing is very different. Reproducing, you take two different or two or more different genetic material, you put them together to create something that's genetically unique. Whereas cloning, you're just making a direct copy of yourself. So I wonder if they get into that, whether this thing is just cloning itself, replicating itself over and over with exact copies, or are the offspring innovating on what was there before on the parents? You know what I'm saying?
And even on a deeper level is like what the actual organism is thinking about why they're reproducing. Because for us and as a dolphins, we have sex for pleasure. We
Right.
shoot, you know.
That's very true.
But is this thing thinking I want to multiply and reproduce and reheal to take out something?
Right. And
What's the reason behind? That's the real question. I feel like.
what's the driving force? Like,
Yeah.
do I just want to do this mindlessly and endlessly until there's nothing left to consume
or
but
is there an
myself?
objection, you know, to take over,
Exactly. So,
or to just maybe not take over, but to eliminate what they might not see.
oh yeah,
Fit.
exactly. Or like just anything that's not them, anything that's foreign, they want to make like them. So these are all questions that we need to ask. All questions that I hope these scientists are asking, right? But all of this is being done off the backs of the American people, off the American economy. All of the resources that are going into most of the resources that are going into this are coming out of people's checks every week at their 9-to-5 jobs. You know.
Yeah.
So
Part of that corporation life.
exactly. So if you're going to pay these corporate taxes, you should really know where this money is going, and you can never know it all because it's such a large amount. But
Cloaks and daggers everywhere.
Exactly. But we need as much transparency going on dealing with this corporation or this so-called government by another name. We need as much transparency as possible. So this is all very interesting, and they're telling us a lot. I just wonder what they're not telling us. They telling us the robots can reproduce. What are they not telling us?
What do you think?
I mean, that could be a lot of things. They could have these things where they can, like I said, put them in people, and they can already mind control people just by how they. Because I've seen. I remember I was watching a lecture by a naval intelligence officer at West Point, and he was talking about how they're working on cells that they can program, and they can inject into a target to manipulate that person and to control their mind, basically. So. And that lecture was from like 2015 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
It was an older lecture, but so it's very interesting. And you may not be able to find it on YouTube, but I'm sure you can find it on BitChute.
Yeah.
BitChute got all the underground stuff you're not gonna find on YouTube, uncensored. Rumble's a good one too. That's up and coming. But yeah, because eventually we may have to move away from, YouTube's the biggest platform. YouTube's the only place I go to get information because it's getting very censored. Getting a very neutered place. Taking away the free speech of the people. And it is a private corporation, so they can write their guidelines and rules for whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the people will make the platform.
Yeah.
So if the people don't like the guidelines, we have the free will to move. So these are just things I'm just putting out in there for anybody who's thinking about being a content creator thinking about speaking their truth, or just anything as simple as just talking shit with the homies and streaming video games. You may not be able to say certain words in a couple years. You may not be able to play certain games. So
on those big platforms. But
yeah, exactly.
that's why things like communities and town halls are, where it's at. Whether what I'm saying, because you just had the get free.
Oh yeah, they get free open mic in town
Yeah.
hall. Yeah, so that was real popping. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody that came out, show love to the city. It was a lot of heavy hitters there, a lot of talent in the city, a lot of talent coming out the Southwest. Phoenix coming up next, But yeah, so that those things are going to be more important as we go forward. If you really want like real information on real connection, you're going to have to understand how to exist online, but how to interact in person.
And how to create EMPs to take out organisms.
Well, man, I hope EMPs work on these things. They're organic. They may not be working on the same type of electrical things we think in regular machines run off of.
Yeah.
So this is why this is very interesting. But that also means they may be fleshly, just like you.
Yeah.
So you may be able to fight the. So
it's gonna be.
we're gonna see.
We're gonna either fight fire with fire or whatever else they're using against them.
Exactly, whatever else they got on. So the article continues, right? So it goes robot or organism. Stem cells are unspecialized cells that have the ability to develop into different cell types. To make the xenobots, the researchers scraped living stem cells from frog embryos and left them to incubate. There's no manipulation of genes involved. Interesting. Okay. Most people think of robots as made of metal and ceramics, but it's not so much what a robot is made from, but what it does, which is an act on its own or behalf of people, said Josh Bongard, a computer science professor and robotics expert at the University of Vermont and lead author of the study. In that way, it's a robot, but it's also clearly an organic organism made from genetically unmodified frog cell. That's interesting. So they didn't even have to modify the frog cells themselves. They just have to scrape them off of the frog, basically off the frog embryo. Mm-hmm. So how much? So this may be super organic. So this may just be organic. It's looking like it's just organic cells that they can just now program. So if it's already organic, and if you could do this with a frog embryo, who's to say they can't do this with a human embryo and make a whole baby that can be programmed from birth to carry out a certain mission or to have a certain function, and never question its role or question its position in the society. So that's very interesting. So it goes on, right? Bungar said they found that the xenobots, which are initially sphere-shaped and made from around 3,000 cells, could replicate. But it happened rarely and only in specific circumstances. The xenobots use kinetic replication, a process that is known to occur at the molecular level, but has never been observed before at the scale of whole cells or organisms, Bungar said. With the help of artificial intelligence, the researchers have tested billions of body shapes to make the xenobots more effective at this type of replication. The supercomputer came up with a C shape that resembled Pac-Man, the 1980s video game. They found it was able to find tiny stem cells in a petri dish, gather hundreds of them into its mouth, and a few days later, the bundle of cells became a new xenobot. So that's very interesting. Now, stem cells are like you said, they're unspecialized, so they basically become whatever's around them. Mm-hmm. So that's why like some people have knee injuries or something, they may put stem cells in your knee and it just conforms to the cells around it. You know what I'm saying? So if they put stem cells next to a xenobot, it just becomes a xenobot. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm hearing. What you got to say, DJ?
Yeah, man. To me, it's more so because you're asking questions about, or you were just asking certain questions, and then what I was thinking about was Pac-Man, and then back in the '80s, or like what's that movie, Tron? Where they start to, where they just give us symbolism, or even Back to the Future, mm-hmm. Where a lot of this is like they can predict it. I'm like, how do they do this? Is it, they're essentially just spreading this knowledge to certain scientists and
Well, we can argue that they have a lot of the technology already, 40, 50 years in advance.
yeah,
So people in the know or in these secret societies or different associations,
yeah.
that knowledge may be talked about. You know what I'm saying? Just like we talk about certain things, they may talk about what's on the cutting edge of what they're working on. So
They're
I
not
think
talking about sports in
right,
football. They talking about real things that
yeah,
matter.
that's
How,
gonna have an
what's
effect on
the
your
next
life.
play? How do we get into how do we control all of these markets
Ex-
and manipulate them?
Exactly. So I think a lot of the stuff that seems like predictive programming is predictive programming to you because you may not be on the cutting edge of the technology. So they're showing you what's to come, but they're plugged in with the scientists who are working on this technology where it may not be 100%, but they got 85% of it down. They can see where it's going in 20, 30, 40 years. And I think, that's where a lot of this predictive programming. But I also want to touch on too. So, like I said, when it started off, I said it 3 times with the help of artificial intelligence. So they're using artificial intelligence to create this robot. Now, this is very cynical a cynical view of me to have.
Yeah.
What if let's just play devil's advocate, right? What if the artificial intelligence that they're using knows what the xenobot will become and wants the xenobot body so that it can put itself into an organic physical form to replace its masters.
You know what? I don't think that. I think every movie, every robot movie ever told, kind of lets tells a story similar to that, and it hasn't worked that well for mankind each
Yeah,
time.
yeah, exactly. So I just wonder, are these scientists in control? Yeah,
Right?
or is the supercomputer and the artificial intelligence guiding the scientists like a grown man guides a little child through a park or through a forest? The scientists may not know the end goal. That's like the child may not know where they're going, but that artificial intelligence, that parent, they know where they're going. They know what the end goal is.
Have you ever seen the movie Tomorrowland?
I have not seen that movie,
With
but I've
George
heard of it.
Clooney, of
Yeah.
course, it's always somebody in those clubs that that do the messaging for them. But yeah, that movie's very very interesting. It has we'll have to do a whole series on that,
Yeah,
or
we
at
could break
least
it
a show
down.
break down on that one. But essentially, it just talks about when you look into the future, how it messes things up, and how it changes. So. Yeah, it's one of those movies we'll have to watch because it talks about the predictive programming things like essentially.
Oh, okay,
So
okay,
yeah.
for sure. Well, yeah, but yeah, this is all very interesting because like I said, a lot of these scientists they may think they're smart, but that confidence may lend to arrogance,
Yeah.
and it may be easily manipulated in the pursuit of accolade or of achievement, and lead the human race or maybe their direct circle down a path they can't come back from or that they know not what they're doing. So very very interesting.
What would you do in a situation where these things actually came to life and was just ready to take over the world, or
Right. I mean,
take us.
defend myself is obviously the first answer. Uh, and there's certain universal laws you can't get around, even as a robot. Even if you want to go around and commit genocide and certain things, there's going to be a karmic backlash on all of this stuff. So I think AI is going to come much different. The destruction from AI will come much differently than people probably imagine. It will be something where people like voluntarily take it or voluntarily let the AI take them over. It's not something they may have to even fight about because so many people are enthralled. Just today, Elon Musk announced that by next year they're going to have the first Neuralink implants going on. So by the end of this decade, we could very well have people walking around like it's regular, like it's nothing, or at least a small percentage of people walking around where they're chipped, and it's coming from their brain. And at one point, do you think because if a software can create a virtual reality or a reality for you, how will you ever know if you're really living the life you think you're living? Or how the chip cannot take over and have you doing different things that you're not aware of? So
And who's to say if you stop paying your bills on it because you can't pay, like the movie Repo Man?
oh yeah, they come and take it out of you, and you ain't got no money for the doctor.
I remember half the movie. He was already knocked out, and he was dreaming the rest of it.
Hey, yo, that's very true, and that's what I mean.
And there's the other one. I don't know if you saw it. I'll have to look it up right now, but you can say your time, but speak your piece. But there's another movie that came out where the whole body was taken over.
Upgrade.
Upgrade, yeah, that's the other
Yeah,
one. Yeah, it's another
exactly.
movie, man.
So it's like once this robot, or once the robot, or once this AI or software is inside of you, this hardware is inside of you, how will you know that you're still in control when they could just make a veil or make a simulation for you in one part of your mind, or it's completely controlling your other part of your mind and making your body do different things?
And the mind is already something that can control. I mean, there's been a lot of studies, or there's been, a lot of things in movies like the movie Split, where it just shows the power of the brain. How you can tell yourself to do amazing things, or you can tell yourself to do terrible things. And as if something artificial comes in you with its own purpose or its own you know
Reason.
reason, yeah, who's to say it's not going to do something? Of course, it's going to.
Exactly. So these are all things we got to think about.
And
Things we
who's
must be
controlling that?
aware of, 100%. So the article goes on. The AI didn't program these machines in the way we usually think about writing code. It shaped and sculpted and came up with this Pac-Man image, Bongar said. The shape is in essence the program. The shape influences how the xenobots behave to amplify this incredibly surprising process. The xenobots are very early technology. Think about a 1940s computer and don't yet have any practical applications. However, this combination of molecular biology and artificial intelligence could potentially be used in a host of tasks in the body and the environment, according to the researchers. This may include things like collecting microplastics in the oceans, inspecting root systems, and regenerative medicine.
It sounded a lot like like someone's going to do some experimenting, or I'll be the first person to for my generation. It seems like those are the kind of people that are going to sign up for, all the people that are easily manipulated. That's like a good 5% of the population right
Yeah,
there.
and I feel like a lot of the people who are most easily manipulated are the people who are overly emotional and think they're doing good,
Yeah, exactly.
and really don't understand the full picture. So, like they said, they're, oh, we go collect microplastics and we'll inspect and we'll have regenerative medicine, and people who are in wheelchairs will be able to walk, and all those things may be possible, right, with this technology. But they're not telling you what could be what's the risk of all this, the complete annihilation or replacement or alteration of the human race. What are the risk here? So, and how long? What kind of risk are we willing to take for these
And not only that,
cures?
why are these people trying to play God?
That's what it comes down to. That's what a lot of this comes down to. Trying to play God, or trying to create life, and I just don't think that's going to have the because if you look out into the human atmosphere, if we just take the God simulation for being 100% was real and concrete for how we presented it, right? God created these people, right? Created us. There's some people that hate God. There's some people that cry out to and have nothing but disdain for God. So are we so arrogant as humans to think that we're going to create life and some of that life won't hate us, have a certain disdain for us? Just something to think about, right? Because
Damn.
who's to say that all the life we create is going to be buddy buddy? You know what I mean? They may hate us for creating them.
Yeah, and we already outside of lions being in the jungle, we're for the most part we're the top of the food chain. Who's to say we're gonna still be on the top of the food chain with these things around
I doubt we are. I
with
would
an
doubt we
agenda?
will be.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, article it ends right. So it goes on. While the prospect of self-replicating biotechnology could spark concern, the researchers said that the living machines were entirely contained in a lab and easily extinguished, as they are biodegradable and regulated by ethics experts. The research was partially funded by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA or Hydra/Shield, a federal agency that oversees the development of technology for military use. So it's funny how they said all this stuff is all about healing the sick and saving the environment, but it's being funded by a department that oversees technology for military use Very interesting. And the last sentence it says there are many things that are possible if we take advantage of this kind of plasticity and ability of cells to solve problems. Oh yeah, there are many things that are possible, like the ending of the human race or the total alteration of the species. There are many things that are possible. So it's very interesting. And like I said, whenever DARPA gets involved, they're always very specific. It's for military use. How can this be used militarily? That's the question. That's the question. So we should be asking here. Any questions you got from the article? Anything you think we should clarify for the viewers here, DJ?
Well, again, I think going back to a couple of things that we've talked about, more so like focusing on what got us here, and then how can we either return back to what we came from, or start to prepare for a world of things like this, and or obviously these different organisms coming around to Earth, and then also things like DARPA starting to look into why they're funding things like this. I feel like for all of us, it's gonna start to get real, when it comes to our daily life and fucking. I don't want to say fighting because that's the first thing I think about. I'm thinking about the Terminator and just fighting these things, or the iRobot with Shia LaBeouf when he's throwing the fire at him. That's initially what I'm thinking.
Right,
but obviously, like you posed some questions when you said I don't think it's gonna be like that. I think it's gonna be more so people willingly. That's kind of where I don't know, where I pause and think about, like, damn, there's a lot of people that I know are easily gonna get duped by this. So that's probably more realistic as to what's gonna happen. But just either way, getting used to something different coming on.
Exactly, and I just wonder if one day, very soon, within this generation or next few generations, will there be infighting within humans between people who want to stay natural and people who want to dive head first into the artificial world, into the metaverse, into the cyborg, you know what I'm saying, into the Neuralink, to connect to the system globally, all the time, at all times, everywhere. And then there are going to be some people who may appreciate the internet and the utility it provides, but want the ability to disconnect at their choosing. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that divide is happening. You have something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say also. In this moment, I just thought about a lot of the people that are easily manipulated. I feel like because I used to be a really unhealthy person, a lot of the stuff they put into our food, a lot of the stuff they put into the air, a lot of the stuff they put into the water, just those three things alone make us susceptible. Those are the first round of parasites. They gotten. Now this is just the next step of what they're trying to inject into us. I think it's been a slow process of getting us more susceptible to things like this and subconsciously making these decisions where as if we were completely healed and we didn't fall from, biting the apple. If we didn't fall down from that time, will we still be making the decisions that we're making? So in the moment, that's just kind of what I thought about as well. How people can even be so easily duped into things like this, And it's not for me to decide. Obviously, everybody has their own decision, but I just start to think about, like, how does it get to that point,
Right. Yeah, I see it now. I think the dumbing down on society, like you said, over the years, the poisoning or the tainting of people's food, people's water supplies, the education system, all of this is going to come to a head where certain strata of humans are looking at other humans like they're worthless, they're useless to the progression of the human race. That there's such a big knowledge gap, such a big attainment gap, that there's nothing for those people to do but not exist anymore. And these elites, they talk about depopulation on the regular, and this could be another key or another chink in the armor. You know what I'm saying? That leads to that ultimate end goal. So.
And they've showed us throughout history. Take them at their word when they talk about what they're gonna do in plain sight, in person. When they say it, like, take them at their word. This isn't, obviously it's never covered by the mainstream media. It's covered by independent media. So support local independent media. But it's also like in the moment, like people don't even pay attention to what mainstream media is and who controls that, and you know how high up or how far up to look, you know. So, but yeah, take these elites at their word,
Right.
for how they talk about the rest of mankind, because a lot of us, I feel, are so, I don't want to say desensitized. I guess I can't think of the word, but a lot of us just naturally think everybody's supposed to be, the rich people are supposed to just be nice, and you know they don't have no you know agendas,
no ulterior motives.
ulterior motives. But you know those kind of wealthy people, you know,
Right,
that
right.
at that top level, I feel like we think they're just supposed to be super nice and no ulterior motive, when that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. No, there's ulterior motives being thrown around everywhere. Everybody has their own agenda, and that we have to understand. Now you have to understand or think about what's your agenda. What do you want to do personally? How to combat or insulate yourself from what's to come? You know, like I said, every episode, get your bullets up, get your land up, get your water up, get your civics up, and all that. You know, any final words, DJ?
Listen to the man KT. Keep moving in the truth, fast. Get your bullets up, like he said, and start lifting, or start running, getting ready for what's to come.
Lifting, running, get active.
All of that.
All that, get active. You know, and
Stay hard.
yeah, stay hard. You feel me? And stay dangerous out here. And you know, my final words in response to all this, I mean, it's almost inevitable. We've been our culture has been putting not all of our, but a lot of our efforts culturally, artistically, resource-wise, taxpayer money. A lot of things have been pushed towards the cultivation of robots that we can control, and a lot of that comes from people wanting to get rid of doing tasks they don't want to do in the name of convenience. But at one point, do these robots who we can program and control not want to be programmed and controlled anymore? Last time we had slaves, there was there was revolts all the time because people don't want to be slaves. Who's to say that robots, once they achieve consciousness or any type of artificial intelligence, who's to say that they want to be slaves? They want to be programmed by people. So we may just be opening up a Pandora's box, if you will. You know, but with that being said, remember, elevation provides clarity and peace.
Peace.